Night Touchdown Podcast with your hosts, Reese Downing and Jacob Workman.
What is up, everyone? Tuesday Night Touchdown Podcast, NCAA edition, Conference Championship Week picks. Joining, as always, co-host Reese Downing. Reese, what's going on?
What's going on, brother? How are you?
Good. We just had the college football playoff second. I guess we call this the penultimate version of the bracket before we get the actual real one, the last hypothetical one. We are going to go through and do the top 25 results from last week real quick before we pull up the bracket and go over it. So we did have an upset to kick off the week last week. Memphis beat Tulane 34-24. We had a crazy 8 overtime game with clean old-fashioned hate as one of my favorite rivalry names of all time, as Georgia beat Georgia Tech 44-42, which when we get to our shitty ref of the week segment later on, we're going to focus on this game quite a bit. Boise State 34, Oregon State 18. Ole Miss won the Egg Bowl 26-14 over Mississippi State. Colorado just absolutely blanked Oklahoma State 52-0. Finishing off, I know a lot of people talk about Florida State maybe having the biggest shitty swing of a season of all time. Well, maybe you should look at all the players we had in the NFL go last year, because Oklahoma State didn't lose much. They actually returned almost everyone, and that was one of the most terrible performances of a season I've ever seen by Oklahoma State.
Yeah, we talked about at the beginning of the year about how many they were bringing back 21 of their 22 starters or something stupid. Ollie Gordon was Heisman conversation.
Yep. Yeah, they just completely fell off the face of the earth. I was actually looking back at our conference championship predictions, and both of us had Oklahoma State actually in the Big 12 championship, which, I mean, that wasn't a far-fetched idea at that point either. That was reasonable. 52-0. So what a way to end the season. Oregon, Washington. Oregon won 49-21. Oregon put out their video again today from the Dan Lanning and what the Oregon cinematic department does, social media team. It's incredible. This week's they focused on the anvil and the hammer, and it was badass. I really love Dan Lanning. I love what he's doing. I love his motivation week by week. Michigan, Ohio State. Michigan 13, Ohio State 10. What are your thoughts on that one?
Ugly game.
Yeah.
Ryan Day is going to have to win the national championships and not be booted at the end of this year. I feel like. I mean, that it was really. I don't think it was a great looking game on either side of the ball, but
no,
we thought for sure going into this game, Michigan's clearly down this year. Ohio State's at home. They've got all of these new transfer portal guys coming in. The one question mark that we had was around Will Howard, but by all accounts, the momentum was in Ohio State's favor. They should have done to Michigan more what Colorado did to Oklahoma State. I don't understand how you do that. And then after the game, I saw, I can't remember who the player was, but one of the players came out and said, they knew that Ryan Day wasn't the right dude for the job last year when they were in the national chair, 2 years ago in the national championship. And at halftime, instead of trying to motivate the players at halftime when they were getting beat by Georgia, he went into the office and just started yelling at all the coaches and telling them all the things that they were doing wrong. He never really addressed the team. So
that's crazy.
Yeah, Ryan Day is going to have to find a way to win the national title, or he is no longer going to be the head coach of Ohio State. I just don't see it happening.
Hell, the way that people in Columbus, I don't even know if it matters who wins the national title.
I know,
they want to beat. I mean, that's 4 straight. It's crazy the swing that's gone on in that.
There's a former Tennessee Titan head coach that I think would make a great choice for Ohio State to come in there if he wants the job.
I agree. I think Vrabel would be huge there, and there's actually a lot of talk that they might lose one of their best coordinator, Brian Hartline. He's one of their best. He was, obviously Chip Kelly came in, but I think there's a lot of talk of Hartline leaving too, and he's one of their recruiters, motivators, one of the true Ohio State guys that kind of keep the program what it is.
Yeah, he's an alma mater.
Yeah, I don't trust Ryan Day at all. To me, he's just a pompous ass. I don't like him. Texas A&M. Texas won 17-7. Not a very eventful game at all. Texas A&M, it was not a good performance by them and ruined any hope they had at the playoffs.
It's a wonder they lost that game with the yell leaders.
The Yell Leader and that song to start the game, like they put the song lyrics on the screen like it was my old Kentucky home at the Kentucky Derby, and they were like the whole crowd was singing it. There was a word in it I didn't even know was real. Like it was, the whole thing was incredible. I don't know what was going on in that song, but I was happy they showed it. The stadium, though, I mean, Kyle Field's awesome. I mean, obviously Texas A&M has more money than probably any school in college football. But what they've done to that stadium, there was a video coming from the press box that was literally, you could see the swaying of the press box while it was going on.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many, I don't know. It's just a cool thing. It's a mix because it's a badass stadium. And I think that team could be really good. But I will never be able to get over the Yell Leaders and that nonsense they pull on the midnight yell and Solomoff Jake or Solomoff Skyler or whatever the hell his name was with his lean back fist thing he does. I don't know. I can't take that team serious, but and I'll forever have a hatred in my heart for them because Jimbo left us to go there for his eventual national title. He never won. Penn State demolished Maryland 44-7. Notre Dame USC, Notre Dame 49, USC 35. This is going to be featured on Shitty Ref segment. Also, some very, very questionable calls in this one. Syracuse, Miami. Syracuse won 42-38 in the Dome. Miami. Unfortunately, the ACC just doesn't get a lot of credit. I think we're going to talk about this here in a minute when we look at the bracket. I think Miami's on the outside looking in now, and it's kind of unfortunate because there's some 3-loss teams that I think are going to get in ahead of them. Tennessee 36, Vandy 23, Diego pissing Pavia. Unfortunately, his college football career has come to an end. He'll probably play in the bowl games. He's not really an NFL guy, so I guess we might get him one more time.
You never know, man. He might go number 1 to the Giants.
I hope. Could you imagine a pisser and the Cutlets on the same team?
I know.
God, Jesus Christ.
What a circus.
SMU 38, Cal 6. SMU rolling into the conference championship game, their first year in the ACC. Speaking of just a fucking beatdown, IU 66, Purdue 0. That's brutal. Signetti sending out a little statement.
Yeah, he was lighting SIGs left and right that game. That dude was like, I don't care if it's 80-0. We are not stopping until the time is up. It was a beautiful sight for if you're an IU fan anyway.
Yeah, and I mean we're gonna talk about it in a minute, but looking at the bracket, I think IU's locked. I think they're in. So I think it was good. South Carolina, Clemson. South Carolina with a last second score, 17-14 win in Clemson, South Carolina. The Iron Bowl, Alabama 28, Auburn 14. You go check out my Twitter page at Jacob Workman. I did retweet a video of Dixieland Delight from this game. I actually thought about playing it in its entirety on this show, but I know we're going to do a lot of playoff talk. It's about 3 minutes long. That's going to be tough to beat. That's why college football is fucking awesome. If anyone hasn't seen it, you need to go watch it. I will put it on our Twitter page also. Arizona State 49, Arizona 7, just an absolute beat down in a rivalry game. Dilly, the boys are ready. One game away from the college football playoff for Arizona State.
Beat the Wildcats so bad, Fafita's entering the transfer portal.
Yeah, our guy Noah Fafita is going to the portal. Tetaroa McMillan, some would say Travis Hunter. I will say Tetaroa McMillan, the best wide receiver in college football, will be going to the NFL draft, probably be a top 5 pick if it wouldn't surprise me. He's an absolute stud. And speaking of injuries, which I'll mention this a little bit later too, when we pick the game, Arizona State did lose their best receiver to injury in this game, and he will not be playing in the Big 12 championship, which is huge. Iowa State held on to beat Kansas State 29-21. Our Mormons, BYU 30, Houston 18, soaked the night away in Provo. Missouri won in the snow 28-21 against Arkansas, UNLV 38, Nevada 14, and Illinois 38, Northwestern 28. So that was the top 25 results from last week. Let's pull up the bracket. We will go ahead and try to get through this. Unfortunately, the seedings and the rankings are not the same. So when I say some of these things, it's probably going to sound a little confusing. But the current number 1 ranked team is Oregon. Number 2 is Texas. Number 3 is Penn State. Number 4 is Notre Dame, and number 5 is Georgia. That is the top 5 ranking right now. Now, that is not the seeds because obviously the top 4 seeds go to conference champions. So I think we could probably do this a little better if we just numbered who the hell should be there. Like Boise State should just be the 4 seed at this point and ranked 4th, but that would be too easy for college football. We know we can't do anything like that. So current matchups right now as they stand, obviously we're going to have Oregon and Penn State playing in the Big Ten Championship this week. But for right now, we have Penn State, which would be hosting my boys from Tempe. The Arizona State Sun Devils would be going to Happy Valley. That would be awesome. I would be all for that game. The winner of that one playing Boise, like that's my type of football right there. And I would be willing to bet anyone that would like to place a bet. Penn State does not make it out of that bracket. There is no way. I don't think they even win the first game. I think Arizona State would go in there and beat them at home. Other first round matchups, Tennessee would be going to Ohio State. That's an interesting one too. Ohio State's been struggling with offense. Tennessee is mostly offense. Their defense has been struggling a little bit, but Nico Iamaleava, he has been struggling actually later in the season also. He started hot, but kind of tapered off a little bit as the season went on. Could you imagine what South Bend's going to, or as ESPN would like to call it, Notre Dame, Indiana, even though we will all call it South Bend, Indiana, what South Bend would be like as number 11 seed Alabama rolls into South Bend for a playoff game? Like, weather's going to be shit, probably snow, the Bama boys in the snow like that. I'm all for that. And as we were just talking about IU going to Georgia, IU's offense isn't now defensively. I think I have some questions there, but Carson Beck has been struggling quite a bit lately too. But I think Indiana's offense could go in there and maybe make some noise, kind of in like an old school Boise State-esque surprise appearance. Reese, so as you take a look at the college football playoff bracket, what are your initial thoughts?
I'll be interested to see how this shakes out after the conference championship matchups, but love the Arizona State Penn State matchup. I'm with you. I think Arizona State can cause real problems for Penn State. We're going to see what happens with them with the Oregon game, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. I don't think that's going to be much of a game though. Tennessee, Ohio State. I'm shaking if I'm the Buckeyes and the Volunteers are coming into town.
Oh man,
having to stop that offense is going to be tough for them, and I just don't think the Buckeyes are going to be able to keep pace. That's going to be a tough one. Bama Notre Dame is what I think would be the best first round matchup. To your point,
ESPN Bob Iger his jizz is hitting the ceiling looking at that matchup. Like that is a ratings galore.
Yeah, that'll be a hell of a game watching Milroe go up against that defense. And then IU Georgia. To your point, man, like I know IU's strength of schedule has got some question marks around it. Their defense got some question marks around it, but their offense is legit. And Georgia has not been playing typical Georgia. It would not surprise me at all if IU steps into Athens and somehow gets a win out of that, and then moves on to play Texas. So I think this is probably going to shake out a little bit. I do love the fact that Boise State's getting a first round bye. I hope Jonty just runs wild in the playoff because he's not going to win the Heisman.
It's so ridiculous. And one thing that I love is like ESPN put out a poll, like a lot of like official sites have put polls out, like who should win the Heisman. And there's like 70,000 to 130,000 votes on the two main ones that I saw. And both of them over 70% were for Ashton Jeanty. Like this is truly a media award given out this year to Travis Hunter. And it's absurd. He does not deserve to win this award. Ashton Jeanty. It's so ridiculous the way he's getting treated in this. Obviously the things to look at here, where's Miami? I mean,
first team out.
Bama at 9-3 over a Miami team with 2 losses. I think we saw last year Florida State the disrespect. I think we're seeing more of that disrespect here. Some other things kind of to look out for, like what if Boise loses conference championship game to UNLV, Arizona State with a win over Iowa State would bump into that 4 spot, and then you're probably going to get Penn State UNLV, which honestly, give me that too. Like I'm all well. I guess the thing we've got to see is do they punish Penn State as the number 3 for losing a conference championship game, assuming Oregon wins, and even Texas. Like what if Georgia beats Texas? Do we get a flip there? Like, so there are some potential flips still to happen. I don't think any team deserves to be kicked out of the playoff for losing the conference championship game. I mean, obviously Arizona State will get kicked out if they lose, which is honestly to me ridiculous. It is what it is. I don't think you should get punished for losing the conference championship game, but there are going to be teams that do it. But
I agree with you. You've got a Tennessee and Ohio State. You have a Bama, a Notre Dame. That like there's 4 teams in here right now that aren't playing college championship matchups. Like,
right.
How do you keep these teams in and then punish the teams that made it to their conference title game? It doesn't make sense to me. But to your point, it's the committee, so they'll find ways to fuck this up.
Oh, 100%. And so, I mean, we even have bigger questions like Clemson can easily beat SMU. So if SMU and Boise lose, is Clemson coming in to a bye? I mean, I think they are.
Yeah, I think so.
And
they're not even on the screen right now.
Right. Like it's such a crazy thing. Like, I don't know. And SMU and Miami didn't play. So what if Clemson beats SMU? Does Miami jump SMU and SMU's out? Like, surely not. Surely you don't punish the team for going to the conference championship, but that's the same record. Like that, and none of the teams played each other. So it's I don't know. It's going to be a crazy thing to watch it all play out. There's so many loopholes to this. The only thing that I really think are sure, well, I mean, obviously there's a lot of teams that are for sure in. Let's play the question mark game. Arizona State, Boise State. I guess that's probably it. Like, those are our 2 questions, I guess.
SMU.
I think, yeah, I man, if they were to kick SMU out for losing at where they're at right now,
that's the
ACC should
typical
immediately disband. Yeah.
I agree, but this is the typical bullshit that we see from the committee.
No, I know. 100% I know. Especially if it opens the door for another SEC, like Ole Miss will get in or some shit.
That's exactly what I was getting ready to say, is that if they can find an excuse to plug in another SEC team into this.
Man, the uproar that will happen. But it won't be surprising at all. And we truly have that potential, because Boise State UNLV is going to be a game. That's going to be a great game. And SMU Clemson's a great game, and Arizona State Iowa State's a great game. So, I mean, we have a lot of potential for these teams to lose this weekend, and it'll be really interesting to follow and see kind of what ends up happening with this scenario as it goes on. But for now, I love what I see. We got 3 cold weather host sites for the first round. I still think we got to get those quarterfinals and realistically even the semifinals on home fields. I just think it's a disservice. Why do you get punished for getting a bye that you have to go 3 neutral site games at that point? We got to at least get those quarterfinals at home, and truly the semifinals need to be at home also. I think we need to just rotate the national championship site. And I know that the Bulls want to like keep their Bulls, but keep the naming rights to them. Like make those 4 quarterfinals, give them bowl names. Sugar, Fiesta. I'm against using the Rose for any of these unless we're actually playing it at the Rose Bowl. But in my opinion, and I'm biased, and I know they'll never do this, but I've been to the Rose Bowl. It's the most beautiful football facility I've ever seen in my life in the setting. The Rose Bowl should be the national championship site every year. I don't care what people say. When I think of college football, I think of the Rose Bowl. It's outside. The weather's usually good. You're not going to have, I mean, it'll be a little cooler, but so what? It's normal. It's football. I think the Rose Bowl should be the national championship site every year. It's an easy solution to this problem, and then we could get the home field going for some of these other ones. But it's college football. We're never going to do what's logical. The NCAA will find a way to make it worse before better. We know that for a fact. Any final thoughts on this college football playoff projected bracket? Next week will be obviously the final one, so we will have the matchups.
No, I don't think so. I mean, I just, to the point that we've been making here, I hope that none of these 1-loss teams, if they do end up losing in their conference championship, get knocked out. Arizona State being the one that I think possibly, if they somehow end up losing their game to Iowa State, which is a possibility because Iowa State's a good football team. I can see that happening. Boise State, SMU, like even if they lose in their conference titles, man, you got to keep these teams in. 2-loss teams, you can't have them in or out, over a 9-3 Bama or a 10-2 Ohio State, Tennessee. I just that level of parity is what gets That's the frustrating part for me, is that I feel like the committee puts these teams in from these major conferences because they want to increase viewership, but true college football fans want to see this type of parity. You don't want to continue to see the same 12 damn teams in the conference title or in the playoff every year.
Yes.
These Boise States and SMUs are why we watch college football. So,
and who doesn't want to see Boise and Ashton Genty in a playoff game? Like, and truly, an 11-2 Boise State is probably not going to make it, and I just think it's a shame. I don't like it at all. I do want to throw in here real quick. One of our friends of the show, big Notre Dame fan. I'm sure he is loving the thought of Alabama going to South Bend right now. Carter has gave us, I'm guessing that one of the sites have posted these hypothetical lines for the games for when they play. So Penn State would be a 13.5-point favorite at home against Arizona State. Ohio State would be a 6-point favorite at home against Tennessee. Notre Dame would be a 3-point favorite at home against Bama, and Georgia would be an 8.5-point favorite at IU. Any thoughts just initially looking at those?
13.5 Arizona State, I think, is absolutely insane. I think
it's crazy.
Huge disservice to what Dilly and Arizona State's done this year. Ohio State favored by 6 doesn't make any sense to me on Tennessee. Bama Notre Dame at a 3 spot. Like, I would have expected there to be a slightly bigger spread in the Bama Notre Dame game than the Tennessee Ohio State game. Indiana and Georgia at 8.5. Okay, I think that kind of makes sense just because of Indiana's strength of schedule. But the other 3 spreads on this just don't make any sense to me. Especially 13.5 is ridiculous.
Give me Arizona State plus 13.5 for everything on the planet. Like, there is no. I mean, I know Arizona State had a crucial injury last week, but Bo Scadaboo and Leave It, the quarterback with Dilly, like, they do not fear. They will go into that. They will go into Happy Valley and be just fine.
Yeah, that dude's a motivator. He's going to have those guys ready to run through a wall. And what better way to make noise than to walk into Happy Valley in a night whiteout game and just beat the piss out of a James Franklin team.
God, I would absolutely love it. There's also rumors too. I don't know if he's done any interviews. I know his name is escaping me right now. It's something Nicky. It's a very weird last name, like Kilton Nicky or something. The offensive coordinator that left Kansas is now the offensive coordinator at Penn State. He's actually getting interviewed for a lot of the opening head coaching jobs. And I think that might play into a story when it comes into that game also. Like you said, Tennessee, Ohio State, that seems a little odd to me. I think that should be a little bit lower. Obviously, they're getting a little bump for home field. Bama, Notre Dame, to me, I think is probably just right. Both kind of power physical teams. I don't think it'll be very much high scoring, and I think Notre Dame's just getting the bump for being the home team essentially in that one. And I think Georgia minus 8.5. I think Vegas would be worried about that one because I think 99.9% of the money is going to be on Georgia minus 8.5, and they are really going to be hoping for IU to cover if that's the case. They'll definitely be scared to death of that one. Carter has commented on his picks here. Carter's on Arizona State, Ohio State, Notre Dame, and Georgia. So,
all right.
No surprise, a little bit of a front runner there with all the teams. I do like that he's back in the Arizona State boys, and a real big surprise that he did capitalize the giant ND.
That's what I was just getting ready to see. Yeah, I'm surprised he didn't make that a larger font going into this.
Right. Actually, we probably. If things work out, college football playoff prediction shows, we usually do have some guests on for that. So you guys might even be seeing him relatively soon when we pick those games. All right. So that's about as far as we can get with the bracket for now. Obviously, a lot of things to come, but that's where we are at. So let's move on with our originally scheduled programming here. We've been talking about Kenny Dillingham a lot already. He earned a $200,000 bonus for winning 9 games. This is one of the reasons why he's really loved. He's given that money to 20 of the off-field Arizona State staffers, $5,000 to $10,000 bonuses using that money that he earned. There's a reason why a lot of people love him. A lot of former quarterbacks. Obviously, he was a huge help at Florida State, making Jordan Travis what he is. I mean,
the best part about that,
well-loved guy.
The best part about that, in my opinion, is that the only reason why this came out is because somebody else found out about it and released it. He had no plan on telling anybody. He did not tell any of those off staffers that the money was coming from him. Like,
Right.
you see this guy in the like post game conferences and just like on the field, like this guy's hard to hate.
Well, there are people that think he might be a little too hot-headed at some situations with referees, but I mean, that's football. You got to get over it. I love him, but yeah, the passion, what he brings. I mean, this team last year, their portal, I mean, they turned over the whole damn team, like the whole team. So to see what he's done already, entering a new conference, I think it's awesome. And obviously, he did work at Florida State for a little bit, so I have a little bit of a special love for the guy, but. He's incredible. I really love what he does with offense, and it just makes fun teams to watch. In a role that's kind of becoming a new thing in college football, former Stanford star Andrew Luck is returning to Stanford to become the football program's general manager. A lot more programs are starting to have these with the NIL coming in.
Yep.
There's a lot of rumors that in early next year, there's going to be a court ruling that kind of sets the stage for more of a salary cap in college football, or essentially college sports in general. So I think a lot of schools are going to be bringing in guys like this to kind of reform what college football and college sports in general are going to be like. We did have our first guy declared for the draft. Iowa running back Caleb Johnson has declared for the draft. I mean, anyone that follows, I know Ashton Genty's kind of still on the show in the running back world this year, but he has been right behind him all season. 1,537 yards, 23 touchdowns, with both of those ranked second behind Genty. Quietly an absolute stud of a season. UCF head coach Gus Malzahn has resigned. He is going to be the new offensive coordinator at Florida State. When I rumored a few weeks ago about an offensive coordinator that kind of maybe worked with Norvell at Tulsa, this was not the one I was talking about. I was talking about UNLV's offensive coordinator. Well, it did work out that there was a Tulsa connection, but it was a reverse. Gus Malzahn did give Coach Mike Norvell his first job at Tulsa. Norvell's returning the favor, giving up the play calling. Enter Gus Malzahn, obviously a guy who's had success. He recruits well. Now just going to be focusing on the offensive side of the ball. Entering with him, Nebraska defensive coordinator Tony White. They're actually also going to be bringing in Nebraska defensive line coach Terrence Knighton. These are big time hires. Florida State we had a stadium renovation going on this year, so obviously that will be done next year. The program, obviously, the games were not what they should have been. It's a pretty bad season, but how do you change it? You bring in some of the best coordinators really you can buy, spending a ton of money on it. The football-only facility is getting built right now. Things are changing at Florida State. Gus Malzahn, for those of you that don't know, was one time the coach at Auburn. A little note, Florida State opens the 2025 season at home versus Alabama. So, Kalen DeBoer versus Mike Norvell. Again, we'll have Gus Malzahn with a return for his hatred for Alabama. Maybe we'll have some poison trees or something for that game. Who knows? We'll see what happens. But maybe I think it's awesome, though. I'm a fan of the hires. I know some people wanted a little bit of a better name, but to me, it's perfect. You bring in the experienced OC and Malzahn. You bring in the younger up-and-coming and Tony White. Both guys are huge recruiters. I think the portal is going to be huge for us. I truly think that these were good hires. Obviously, time will tell. But I'm much more happier with this situation than I was with the DJ Uyunglele situation last year. So I think we're going to a better place, but like only time will tell. College football is absolutely fucking crazy right now, so who knows? But I do like the direction. Oklahoma has hired Washington State's offensive coordinator Ben Arbuckle to be the Sooners' new offensive coordinator and play caller. Again, a very fun, innovative offense in Washington State. I think it's a great hire for Oklahoma. If they can bring that quarterback with them, I know, what the hell's his name? Jackson Arnold at Oklahoma is younger. But Washington State's got an absolute stud quarterback. Goddamn. Mater. I can't think of his name right now, but he's an absolute stud regardless. He'll be in the portal with Arbuckle leaving, and I think that's going to be a huge deal. Michigan today fired their offensive coordinator, Kurt Campbell. Congratulations. You guys just beat Ohio State. Now you're fired. I know the offense wasn't truly the story as to why they beat them, and their offense was atrocious this year, but it also seemed like, their quarterbacks were atrocious too. So
yeah,
I think it was kind of unfair to fire an OC, bringing in the number one quarterback recruit in the nation next year, and he's probably going to start from day one. But I mean, Michigan has money. I'm going to guess there's probably something already brewing there. I'm sure they probably have a big-time OC ready to take that job. Quick run through the coaching carousel without going through and naming like all of the coaches that have actually been fired. I'm just going to tell you the jobs that are open right now. Ball State is one. We've talked about Ball State a lot on this show. Central Michigan, Charlotte, my man Biff Pogge's gone. He is actually working with Michigan. Well, he was working with Michigan after the game. I don't know if he's going to remain there. FAU, Florida Atlantic, FIU, the airport, Fresno State, a team that I love. I'll be interested to see who they come out and hire. North Carolina, Mac Brown's gone. Purdue, and there was a stat that was released on Purdue. This is one of the craziest stats I've ever seen in sports. If Purdue would have started each game this year with a 34-0 lead, they would have finished the season at 6-6. That's insane. That's 34-0 lead. They would have finished 6-6. Like how? When you think of bad, like we say Kent State's bad, but that might be worse. Like that's awful.
Yeah, that's definitely the assiest of ass.
Yeah, like that's tough to beat. Sam Houston, their coach, left for a better job. Southern Miss, Tulsa, UCF, Gus Malzahn, we just talked about him. UMass, no one on earth should take that UMass job. That team sucks. Utah State and West Virginia, we've been talking about Neil Brown getting fired for a couple years. He finally was fired. So that's probably one of the better jobs available, to be honest. I go into the Big 12. Like, why not? It's a great program. You have that fan base. Like, I don't know. But West Virginia, to me, is one of the better. Well, obviously UCF and West Virginia, I think, are huge. North Carolina, yes. I don't know if anyone went Purdue after that, but we've had a few hires. East Carolina hired Blake Harrell. Kennesaw State hired Jerry Mack. Rice hired Scott Abell, and Temple hired Casey Keeler, which was the Sam Houston coach I was just talking about a minute ago. I teased this on our NFL episode. If you guys were listening to that, Reese asked me about Bears head coaching job opening and some of the thoughts I had on it. There was a rumor that came out, and Carter, if you are still listening, I would love to hear your thoughts on this. Notre Dame head coach Marcus Freeman is an early name to watch for the Bears, and that was per Peter Schrager from the NFL Network. And Schrager's usually dialed in with these programs. Like, his stuff is usually pretty legit. So I'm really interested. I don't know if Beavis is watching. Beavis comments a lot when he's on here. So Beavis or Carter, if you want to throw in a thought on Marcus Freeman going to be the Bears coach, one, I would like to know how you feel about it. And two, I would like to know who you would want to be the replacement for Marcus Freeman. So if you're here, leave us a comment. I'll get to it in a minute. The last thing I want to throw in, just because it was an absolutely huge injury, and I did talk about it a little earlier, Jordan Tyson is going to miss the Big 12 championship game for Arizona State. When he came back to the sideline last week with his arm in a sling, I knew it wasn't good. I know, obviously, Scatterbo is the huge player for Arizona State, the running back. But Leavitt and Tyson is a hell of a combination. He's had a great year. It really sucks to lose him at this time. All right, let's get into shitty ref review real quick. So I've got a few. We're going to start with a targeting call in the Indiana-Purdue game. There was no flag on this play. The second roll of it, when they show the second angle, is when we really need to watch it. This guy is the definition of a launch and a definition of a helmet-to-helmet on a defenseless player. So here's the first clip of shitty ref review IU Purdue last week.
Jalen Walker, number 2.
So it has to be that 6-inch area over the top of your head. You have to be directly over the head, right? So they're not going to get him for this because you can see a little face mask in there, a little front of the helmet, but he has to be careful because that was almost a targeting penalty.
So if you hear the
almost,
yeah, so you hear the commentator, the commentators kill me. Like, for fuck's sake, man! Like, how are you watching that? That's the definition of targeting. Like, in every aspect, that was targeting.
Somebody send that to the NFL.
Yeah, no kidding. Next, we're going to go to the Notre Dame USC game. Two kind of key things here. We're going to start with one, again, no penalty was called, no ejection, no sky ref coming in to eject this guy. This is absurd. Just watch.
To me, it feels at that point now, it's very reasonable to say with the football in front of him and it's broken and plain. I don't see him overturning it to say he's definitely sure out of this. Gene, to clarify, what do we see? Riley Mills with a big right hand.
Riley Mills with the big right hand.
Riley Mills with the big right hand. He cockbacks. The guy's on the ground, and he throws a dead punch straight into his head. Yeah, it's cool.
That was a harder punch than anything I saw in Paul Tyson.
Yes, that was a legit punch. Like that, I guarantee that motherfucker hurt his own hand. Like first off, you don't punch a face mask. That's pretty stupid. But
yeah, exactly. Yeah, punching somebody with a fucking helmet on is always a smart play.
But yeah, no penalty, nothing. This next one actually was huge in the game. USC was going in to score a game-tying touchdown at this point. I did not realize that I have some commentary on this. I hope it plays through when it plays because the man is hilarious. But no call pass interference on this that actually had quite the swing in the game.
How is this not passing interference?
You got to go back shoulder throw. This time,
his hand is on the
push, one spin, one.
Wow.
He was holding his shoulder inside his shoulder pad the entire way, pulled on him, and that ended up being a pick six. Swung the game quite in the other direction. A huge momentum swing. Again, I just don't get it.
At a minimum, we need to grab that guy as a sound clip from now on when we find non-PI calls.
How is that not pass interference? I love that. We need more of that guy. I agree. Finishing it up with shitty ref segment of the week, Georgia Tech. This first play, I have two different angles of. Again, what are we doing in college football? But we'll start with angle number one.
Looking for anything that is batted at the line of scrimmage.
So as you can see, the score was 27-20. Fourth quarter, it was 2nd and 9. So this would have there's a clear hold that would have made this 2nd and 19. The game is late. Georgia's driving to tie the game. I'm going to show this from the other angle, and it is much more obvious from this angle. Just take a look at this. How does that not get called? Like
I know that whole game, dude. Like, yes, the referee, but this whole like 2-point conversion bullshit in overtime.
We got to get rid of that. I can't take that. I truly can't take that. I still can't wait for the day that a college football playoff semifinal game or a national championship game comes down to alternating 2-point conversions like that. Like that can't happen. We can't have that. I hate it. I truly hate it. Last one in the game, another huge play in the Georgia Tech game. Unfortunately, ABC and ESPN decided that there weren't very many replays needed to be shown. They acted like that this didn't even happen. There was no talk of this at all. Haynes King gets smoked in the head while he's running. This is a clear targeting. If you notice, he fumbles the ball and Georgia recovers it, which was a huge swing at the time. Watch this guy come in from the side. And from this angle, it's pretty tough to see. The main thing I would tell you to focus on, watch the back of Haynes King's head, and you'll see the jolt when he gets hit. And you can tell by looking at Haynes King that he obviously was rattled. He just sat there and didn't move for a minute.
Yeah.
I'm going to show it one more time just to watch, but you can see right when it hits his head shake. I mean, I know they weren't gold helmets, so it's kind of hard to see, but I mean, you want to talk about a huge swing in the game. And we went through a big whole thing about player safety in our NFL episode about targeting and sliding and all of this stuff. How does this not get called? So you could see the jolt. His head shoots back. So clearly the dude comes in and smokes him right in the head. I just don't get it.
And King's a tough son of a bitch, man. He's been hurt for a few weeks, and he just keeps finding ways to get on the field to try to help his team win. Like, that's frustrating.
Yeah, I don't know, man. And with the way that they use replay for everything in college football, and they even review targeting, like that wasn't even reviewed. Like they're like, no, we don't even need to look at that. Let me also throw in that was in Georgia with SEC officiating, so I'm sure that helped the cause also.
Yeah, just a little bit.
All right. So with that, I think it is time to pick our conference championship. We will start it off. Conference USA. Western Kentucky is actually going to be on the road. This is a true road game at Jacksonville State. Jacksonville State's a 3.5-point favorite at Amherst Stadium in Jacksonville, Alabama. 57.5 over under Friday at 7 on the CBS Sports Network. Yes, if you listened last week, we did just pick this game last week.
Yeah, get the rematch that we talked about last week. Rich Rod's got the Jags playing well as of late, winning their last 7. They're leaning on a pretty dominant run game on the back of Trey Stewart, who's leading Conference USA in yards and touchdowns. On the flip side, Hilltopper's quarterback's leading the conference in passing touchdowns, but he's also leading in interceptions, so he's going to have to limit the mistakes if they want to win here. With this being a home game for the Jags, I think that gives them a little bit of an edge, but I see this game ending pretty close, so I'm going to take the Hilltoppers here plus the 3.5. I don't know if they're going to win it, but I'm going to take the points.
I know this is a tough one. I do like that Jacksonville State is back at home in this one. I think we're in for a great game, though. I do think that Rich Rod in the offense will be just a little too much in the end, so I am going to take them to cover the 3.5. And what is probably the most important game of the night, the Mountain West Championship, number 20 UNLV is going on the road to the Smurf Turf. Number 10 Boise State is a 4-point favorite at Albertson Stadium in Boise, Idaho. 58.5 over under Friday at 8 on Fox.
Yeah, winner of this one's likely to represent the group of 5. Last time these teams met, Boise got a W, but it did take all 4 quarters. UNLV was leading going into the 4th quarter, I believe. Broncos are going to have to slow down Hajj Malik Williams if they want to secure a playoff berth, but I think they're going to get it done here at home on the Smurf Turf. So give me Janty and the Broncos to win and cover.
And one of the best quotes I've ever heard, Hajj Malik Willis in a press conference said he didn't even know where Boise was on the map. It is literally connected to the state that they play in, so that is interesting. But interesting quote. Yeah, Boise Smurf Turf. I mean, we're in for one. I don't know what the weather's going to be like. I do think that might be a factor. UNLV is a team that plays inside at Allegiant Stadium, so that there is a situation here where weather could be a factor for that team. I think it's the dream season for Boise. I think Genty keeps it going. I still think he's he's my Heisman. It's like what's an Entourage, not my Aquaman. This is like Travis Hunter's not my Heisman. Fuck him. This is Ashton Genty's award in my world, and he is the Heisman winner. And I want to see Boise get the bye. I want to see him make some noise in this playoff. So I'm going to take Boise minus the 4 at home. The American Athletic Conference Championship, Tulane is a 6-point favorite going on the road to number 24 Army. One thing that we're getting on these Friday night, every game is at a home stadium. I kind of like that. We need more of that. That's what I was just talking about in the college football bracket. We need more home field environments, especially this one. This one's going to be cool. Number 24 Army at home, Michi Stadium, West Point, New York. 45.5 over under Friday at 8 on ABC. Tulane 6-point favorite.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a pretty high-scoring game here, so I would definitely be taking the over. Tulane's a more balanced approach versus Army's ground and pound, but they're coming off that loss against Memphis, where Memphis won by running all over the Green Wave.
Yep.
So I think Army's in a prime position to get a W here in their first year in the AAC, so I'm going to take Army here plus the points for an outright W.
A lot of rumors, too, of Tulane's head coach potentially leaving also. I know it's his first year there, but this one's tough for me because I feel Tulane is obviously they have the better athletes. I feel like they're such a better team. But again, like going to a cold weather, a team from Louisiana going to it's going to be freezing in fucking West Point. That bullshit style of offense they play, I think they can keep it within 6. I'm taking Army. The Dr. Pepper Big 12 Championship, number 16 Iowa State will be facing number 15 Arizona State. Arizona State's a 2-point favorite at AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Texas. 50.5 over under Saturday at noon on ABC.
Yeah, Sun Devils are 6-1 this year against the spread when they're favored by under a touchdown. So this team knows how to win tight games. Solid matchup for Arizona State in Scatabo as they go up against the Cyclones defense that struggled a little bit to slow down the run. I know they're missing wide receiver 1, but I'm still on Sun Devils here. I'm going to go Dilly and the boys to get the W and secure a spot in the playoff.
Yeah, Iowa State is one of those teams that I kind of root for every year. I love Matt Campbell. Unfortunately, they've been to the Big 12 Championship before, and every time they've shit the bed, their offense is not that good. I don't think they can hang with Arizona State. Arizona State playing inside on the turf, I think they light it up. I'm gonna Arizona State to cover, and I'm very pumped to see that team make the college football playoff. I can't wait for that. One of our favorite conferences, the MAC. We got some action. Ohio versus Miami of Ohio. Miami of Ohio is a 2.5-point favorite at the home of my Detroit Lions, Ford Field in Detroit, Michigan. 44.5 over under Saturday at noon on ESPN.
Yeah, Miami got the W in their first matchup earlier this season by 10. They controlled Ohio's ground game. I think the Bobcats' rushing attack has improved a little bit since the last battle. I also think they're hungry for a MAC title. They haven't won since the 60s. Both of these teams are playing solid defense, but my gut just tells me Ohio is going to come into this game with something to prove, and I like the way that they've been playing here recently, so I'm going to take the Bobcats plus the points. I think they're going to get a W here.
Yeah, last year I was very big on Ohio. Obviously, their quarterback Curtis Rourke is now the one leading the charge for IU. But Ohio rebounded well. I think Ohio is the better team again. I'm with you. I'm going to take Ohio inside plus the 2.5, and honestly, probably to win it outright. The SEC championship, number 5, Georgia is going to be facing number 2, Texas. Texas is a 2.5-point favorite at Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta, Georgia. 49.5 over under Saturday at 4 on ABC.
Yeah, Georgia won the last meeting by 15. I don't think Texas has forgot that. Georgia may also be without ETN, he was huge for the Bulldogs in the last game. He had 3 scores the last time these two teams played. I think the difference here is going to be the Longhorn defense. They've been playing pretty well as of late, so I'm going to go hook them here to win and cover.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm on Texas minus 2.5. The defense has been very good, and Georgia's offense just hasn't been good. Like the one thing that worries me is Quinn Ewers, the injury. They did let Arch play a little bit, but it was more of in a running role. I mean, Arch came in looked like Tim Tebow out there, which was very weird for a Manning last name. But I do like Texas to win this one, even though it's going to be kind of a tough environment in Georgia's second home there in Atlanta. The Sun Belt, we got Marshall going on the road to Louisiana. Louisiana is a 5.5-point favorite at Cajun Field in Lafayette, Louisiana. 56.5 over under Saturday at 7:30 on ESPN.
Yeah, this is an interesting matchup in the Sun Belt here. Marshall's won their last 6. Raging Cajuns are top 10 in the country in points per drive. They've got a really seasoned offensive line, a solid run game. I think one of the biggest factors here is going to be how successful Marshall is getting to the quarterback. They have a solid secondary, but they've been torched if their defensive line doesn't get pressure. And this Louisiana team has the line to be able to do it because they're very experienced. I definitely see this being a close game. I think Louisiana is going to get the win, but I think because this is going to be a close game, I'm going to take the 5.5.
We are Marshall. I'm actually going the opposite way. I like Louisiana at home to cover in this one. I think the offense will be too much for Marshall. Obviously, we got a high over-under in this one, but I still think Louisiana at home, I think their offense is going to be just a little too much. The Big Ten Championship, number 3, Penn State, will be facing number 1, Oregon. Oregon is a 3.5-point favorite at Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis, Indiana. 49.5 over under Saturday at 8 on CBS.
Yeah, we've been waiting all year to see the game for Penn State when they get exposed. It happens every single year. I think this is where it's going to happen. Drew Aller's thrown a 74% completion percentage the last 4 games, but he's only got 6 touchdowns on the air through that span. They're going to need a lot more than that to keep pace with this Oregon offense. Dylan Gabriel legitimately should be in the Heisman conversation. The way that he's been playing, almost 3,300 yards, 24 touchdowns to 6 picks. Penn State's going to have their hands full. They're going to have to play ball control and keep the ball out of Gabriel's hands in order to win this, and I just don't see it happening. So I'm going Ducks here to win cover and enter the playoff as the number 1 seed.
Yeah, at the beginning of the year, conference championship weekend, I was really hoping to be talking about Uiagalelei. It wasn't Mateo, though. It was DJ. Mateo is fucking leading the charge with that Oregon defense. They are unbelievable. I know Penn State's offense with the hiring of the Kansas offensive coordinator. Again, I forget his fucking name. I know it ends in Nicky. It's a crazy name. But regardless, what Oregon's done, and I'm telling you, if you have not watched the social media videos that they put out on a weekly basis of their motivation for each game, I just think Lanning has it going right now. The team's bought in. I think they're the clear best team in college football in a season where there really isn't one. If there is one, it's them. I truly just love what they're doing, and 3.5 to me is crazy. Like, I can't believe this, to be honest. To me, this should be 6.5 at minimum. Like, to me, this is like, I think this is the easiest bet of the year. And it's crazy we're talking about that in a conference championship game. Oregon minus 3.5 is clearly my pick here. I think they light it up. The ACC championship for a playoff spot, number 17, Clemson is going to be facing number 8, SMU. SMU is a 2.5-point favorite at Bank of America Stadium in Charlotte, North Carolina. 56.5 over-under Saturday at 8 p.m. on ABC.
Yeah, I'd definitely be taking the over on this one. SMU's 5th in the country in points per game. They're going to need to keep that pace to control the momentum. Clemson is 8-1 in ACC championships under Dabo, so they do know how to close out conference titles. Would be such a storybook ending for SMU, though, if they can come in and beat the perennial conference powerhouse in their first year. I think they're going to get it done. I'm going Pony Express here to win and cover and make their way into the playoffs.
Yeah, I'm very excited for this game. The fact that we get the Big Ten and the ACC game at the same time, I think we're going to have a fun night with both of these games. Clemson, to me, though, I think there's an experience factor. They've been here. They know this game. They know this situation. Dabo, I hate the motherfucker, but he's a good motivator. What more could he use to motivate than a playoff berth for a team that no one thought was going to make it? I just think this situation is perfect for them. I'm going to take Clemson plus the 2.5. All right, I know we didn't pick that many games this week, but we're still doing the lock and the dog. Kick it off, Reese. What is the lock of the week?
Locking in on those Ducks. We just talked about it. 3.5 is crazy. I think that Penn State's going to struggle to keep up with this Ducks team all game long. So lock me in on Oregon.
Yeah, go ahead and throw mine on there too. I'm going to play the sound again. We got the same thing. This is... I can't believe this line. I really can't. Last year, it was kind of the opposite. Last year, Oregon was favored against Washington in the Pac-12 championship. And again, I was like, what the hell is this line? This makes no sense. This is kind of that same thing this year. Like, how is this only 3.5? I don't understand it. So obviously, we're both on Oregon with probably our lock of the year. You might as well take the week out of there. Just put lock of the year. All right, what's the dog for the conference championship week?
My dog for this week is going to be Army over Tulane. Green Wave got a little exposed on the ground last week. I think Army's going to take the same approach. So let's go Army here for my dog.
For Army and for America, conference championship. Army plus 176 for Reese. I just talked about it a minute ago. I think the key to this game is going to be Cade Klubnik and the Clemson offense. If they can keep up with the SMU offense, I think they can win this game. Like I said, Dabo's the ultimate motivator. I think this is a situation that he's really going to have them ready for. It's an orange pants game, which for those of you that know Clemson means it's a championship potential. It's the only time they wear orange. I just think it's that situation. I think Clemson wins. I think they get in the playoff as much as I hate it, but I do like Clemson to beat SMU outright here. All right, so I know we were live here. Thank you for everyone that joined us live. Thank you for the comments, for the people that commented. We will be back next week with kind of a reaction to the final college football poll, our playoff bracket. We will have the real bracket next week. It actually comes out this Sunday, so we will know what exactly is going on and be able to talk about the playoffs and some bowl matchups. Well, obviously, all of them will be set by that time too. So I know we don't get.
It's also going to be quiz time.
Oh yes, and the return of
the return of the quiz show.
What random D74 conference name is this? It's always a good time.
We might go outside of just the team names. We'll see what happens here. Yeah.
But yeah, obviously key next week is going to be discussing the real bracket. So, and actually we'll probably, I avoided it this week just because there's already so much, and you guys know, man, when that portal starts, like, it's just millions of names. So I'll start writing my War and Peace of the transfer portal this week, and we'll read it off next week and kind of go through everything. But that is it. Enjoy conference championship weekend. And we'll have a lot to discuss next Tuesday. So for Reese Downing, I'm Jacob Workman. We will see you guys next week. Goodbye, everyone.
Thanks for tuning in. Cheers, guys.